A wrongful death case is something no family ever wants to go through. And yet, sadly, traffic fatalities, at least in 2020, they hit a high, not seen since 2007. Traffic fatalities are on the way up. So what happens if tragedy strikes? How does the court system handle cases involving wrongful death? Here to give us an overview and more facts, Tom Sinus from Sinus James Law Firm. Hey, Tom.
Hey, Todd. Thanks for having me back.
Absolutely. So the basic concept of a wrongful death case, let's just start there.
Okay, great place to start. In many respects, the phrase itself helps us here. Sometimes in the law, the phrases don't help us, but we have two words, wrongful death. And of course, that means that if someone passed and they passed wrongfully, meaning that they should not have passed were it not for the act or omission of someone else. And the law, of course, recognizes, you'd be surprised, it didn't always, not since the history of the beginning of law, but it didn't always recognize this. But now we do in Michigan and throughout the country, that when someone is killed as the result of another's wrongful conduct, there are a whole host of damages and losses, of course, that flow from that death. And the concept of a wrongful death is the idea that those damages, those harms, those losses should be able to be pursued in court. And because, though, the person passed away, we have to use a different procedure in these cases than what you would commonly encounter in your traditional personal injury case. But that's the basic concept.
That was my next question, Tom. I'm glad you brought that phrase up because I was going to ask, does wrongful death, does that suit fall under the umbrella of personal injury lawsuits, or are they separate?
It really is separate. I mean, it's conceptually similar in that the idea that personal injury and wrongful death involve cases where someone's harmed because of someone else's negligence. But technically, it's much different. Let's start from how do you even begin one of these cases? Well, obviously, the person has passed on. And so that person cannot begin a lawsuit like you could in a personal injury case. So the law has a legal process for determining who's going to be the one to prosecute the wrongful death case. And we call that individual the personal representative of the estate of the deceased. Personal representative. Well, who's the personal representative? That is ultimately a decision that is made by our probate court system. The probate court system is where an individual can ask to be appointed as the personal representative of the deceased estate. Now, that can be done quickly in a process we call informal probate, or it can be done a bit more slowly in a process called formal probate. But in the end of the day, the idea is to appoint a person, maybe sometimes two, and the personal representative is the one that is then charged with the responsibility of prosecuting that wrongful death case. But the appointment of the personal representative is where it all starts from a matter of legal technical detail.
When it comes to a wrongful death case, obviously, as you mentioned, the person who has passed on can't file the lawsuit. But so I'm assuming usually it's family. What does the family have in the way of rights when it comes to a wrongful death?
That's a great question. It is often a member of the family who becomes the personal representative. Not always, but often. I would say most often. But you're getting at a more important question, which is who in the family can claim their losses, and what losses are they claiming? Well, the statute talks about loss of society and companionship, which is a bit of an old term. What it really means is the lost relationship, the value of the lost relationship between the person who passed on and those family members who survived. So that sort of begs the next question, well, which family members? Because families can be big, right? Well, our statute gives us specific direction. It's spouses, children, descendants, think grandchildren, parents, grandparents, and brothers and sisters. That's our general class of those family members of the deceased who can claim their lost relationship with the one who passed on. Now, there's another form of what are sometimes called economic damages. And the law says here, we're calling these loss of financial support. Well, obviously there, what you're talking about is there are certain family members who, if the loved one passes on, they lose financial support, a spouse, most obviously, and children. So when those family members, and sometimes, of course, older parents, each family being different, if there are family members who have lost financial support because of the death, then that is another element of the claim that those individual family members can make in the wrongful death case. So think of it as the personal representative is the one prosecuting the case, but the case represents claims of harms and losses for all of those various family members that I mentioned.
It is that time of year. The roads getting slippery, a higher rate of alcohol consumption around the holidays. God forbid this happens to you or your family, a wrongful death case. But if it is you or someone you know, where can they get more information, Tom?
Well, there's a lot of good information out there, but they can certainly contact our law firm. We've been handling these tragic cases for many, many decades. They can find us online at www.sinusdramus.com. They can shoot us an email at info@sinusdramus.com and give us a call in West Michigan at 616-301-3333.
Thanks again for the information and the time, Tom.
Thanks, Todd.